Hey, how many people are you expecting?
Relax, it's an open invite.
I think you're a few seats short.
Yeah, like 14 seats.
You should enter your eligible New York Lottery draw game tickets with Collect and Win. You could win a $5,000 gift card to use at the Home Depot and buy a bigger table to host.
Hopefully they also sell chairs.
The Home Depot is not a sponsor of this promotion. You must be 18 years or older to purchase a lottery ticket. You must be 21 or older to purchase a quick draw ticket where alcoholic beverages are served. Please play responsibly. Entered by 1-7-20.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Consistently Cashin podcast. My name is Colby Conway and you can find me on Twitter at Colby R. Conway. Again, due to some scheduling conflicts, my man Ron Rigney at The Real Made on Twitter couldn't be here, but once again he did provide his plays for FanDuel and DraftKings for this Week 15 slate. Season's flying by. A lot of us, Ron, myself, and Bob all play in that Kings Classic League. Got to set the lineups for that, but we always make some time for some DFS lineups to make sure that we're putting out good, consistent lineups that keep you right in the money each week. And if you don't cash, you're right there near. We aim for, consistently sit that 120, 130 range rather than, jump into the 170s one week down to the 80s the next week. So we do try to stay consistent, and we use the clutch ratings here at BigGuyFantasySports.com. If I'm not mistaken here, I believe all of the content is free this week. So the article that you typically have to pay for, I do believe it's not behind a paywall for the rest of the season. Don't hold me to that. Any questions with that, send that to Bob_Long and he can answer any questions you have about that. I just kind of remember him vaguely saying that. I could have definitely misheard him though. So make sure you check that out. A lot of great content over there. We are a member of the Full-Time Fantasy Podcast Network, so check out all the great content over there. Not only could you maybe be listening to this podcast now on the Full-Time Fantasy Podcast Network, but Bob Long and I also do the Prop It Like It's Hot podcast, so you can check that out. But there's just a ton of great content over there, so make sure you're checking all of that out over there for sure. I'm going to go over our normal topics here, including the games we're targeting and avoiding. We'll get into more player talk, and then we'll get into some player specific there, of course, then end it with our building blocks and our bold prediction for week 15. Games we're targeting, just some players or teams, or even games that I have a lot of exposure to. I kind of like Denver, Kansas City a lot. Mahomes should be fine, so those receivers are in play. And from the Denver side of the football, Drew Lock looked really good against the Houston defense last week, and Kansas City's defense allows passing yards and production in similar fashion. So I think Drew Lock is interesting. Cortland Sutton's obviously a great play. And Tim Patrick's booming a little bit as well, so he's a guy I'm looking at. While the overall game might not be great or even fun to watch, perhaps, the Dolphins-Giants, there's a lot to like there. If Devontae Parker plays, he's in play against that poorish Giants secondary that just released Janoris Jenkins, and honestly, that might be better for them. Otherwise, Isaiah Ford could be in the mix. If Parker is out, he's a guy that could step up into that second role for Miami. He played really well last week once Parker went out, so he's a name to watch. From the Giants side of the football, I know Saquon admitted he's struggling a little bit returning from his ankle injury, but this is a great matchup against a Miami Dolphins defense that, this season has allowed the 7th most fantasy points per game to opposing running backs. So that's just something to consider there. The other game, obviously this is going to be a little bit chalky. There's a lot on the line. Both defenses have the propensity to allow some points, and that's the Houston-Tennessee game. A lot on the line there for the AFC South. Both teams pushing to try to win the division there. Ryan Tannehill, A.J. Brown. I even think Corey Davis has some sneaky appeal if you're one that enters in tournaments. From the Houston side of the football, Will Fuller is expected to play, and Deshaun Watson tends to put up bigger stat lines when Fuller is on the field. So you're going to have Will Fuller's in play, DeAndre Hopkins is in play, Kiki QT and Kenny Stills. Wouldn't be surprised if Kiki is inactive actually, but Watson, Hopkins, all of them are certainly in play this week. Games I'm avoiding, Chicago, Green Bay. I'm not into it. I can't find much that I like from there. So it's just a game that I'm not really targeting that much. I can see if you want to try to get some action there, but there's just other price tags or players at price tags I like better. And then the other one is Arizona-Cleveland. I do like Jarvis Landry. I do like Nick Chubb. And obviously tight ends against Arizona play, but I just didn't really get any of those guys in my lineup. The one I really wanted to try to is Jarvis Landry. Just didn't quite work out. So that's a game I'm targeting a little bit, but it ends up being an avoid because I just can't seem to get anybody from that game. We'll move into some player-specific talk here. And we'll start with the high-priced guy of the week. So, looking at my lineup here, I did pay up for quite a few people. So, it's tough to pick this one. But for me, I'd be remiss if I didn't say DeAndre Hopkins. Let me just tell you this. 85% consistent on the season. And also, if you follow me on Twitter, you will notice that I actually quote tweeted a tweet of DeAndre's and sent it over to Bob Lung because DeAndre Hopkins himself called himself consistent. So I think it's a sign. Hopkins has at least 7 targets in every game this season, and for his entire career against the Titans, Hopkins is averaging 6 grabs for just under 100 yards per game. Start Hopkins. He's worth every penny. Looking at Bob's lineup here, the guy at a higher price that he seems to like, and I do as well because he's in my lineups, he's in on Chris Godwin. Mike Evans isn't there. He should get plenty of work. Darius Slay might travel with him a little bit, but if Slay doesn't go into the slot, we've seen slot receivers absolutely decimate the Detroit secondary this season. Wouldn't be surprised if Chris Godwin moves into the slot a lot to try to get away from Darius Slay. And if that's the case, Godwin is the play here. And a clutch game here would push him one step closer to 80% consistent for the season, which is pretty darn good. We'll move into the mid-priced play of the week. I want to say one guy because he's probably my favorite play on the entire slate, but I'll hold off for now. And I'm going to go ahead and say San Francisco's Raheem Mostert. Mostert has become a must-start, as you see on Twitter every time he has a good game. But Coach Shanahan himself even said that he's earned the lead back role. He scored a touchdown in 3 straight games and double-digit touches in back-to-back games, and he's putting up big numbers. There is some volatility here, just because San Francisco tends to spread the ball around so much and get multiple guys involved. But I really think he's an intriguing play this week. Sticking at the same position, Ron is in on Sony Michel, and it's certainly a good spot. Since he can't stop the run, Michel didn't get a lot of work last week, but they might just pound him up the middle this week. So I certainly get the appeal with Sony Michel this week. Low price play of the week. This is just a algorithm issue, just because they set the pricing right before, so they didn't get a chance to see the big week from last week. But it's Ian Thomas. He's going to be my tight end just about everywhere. 5 of 10 targets last week for 57 yards and a score. Super cheap on both sites. And now he gets a super tasty matchup with the Seattle defense that has bled fantasy points to tight ends in recent weeks. So it's Ian Thomas for me. And I'll go ahead and give you Bob's tight end as well, Ron's tight end, and it's David Njoku. Ron continues to hammer these tight ends against the Arizona Cardinals, and why the heck not? This season, Arizona has allowed over 3 more fantasy points per game to the tight end position than any other team in the league. Seattle is second for what it's worth, and they've allowed a whopping 13 touchdowns to the tight ends this season. That is the Arizona Cardinals defense. Tight ends score in bunches. David Njoku's a nice little play this week. We'll go ahead and get into the building block for this week. And I'm going to go ahead and take a look at my lineups here. My lineups are pretty similar, built around a core 4 or 5 players. But for me, I don't want to use my bold prediction for this guy yet. So for me, looking at both my lineups, DeAndre Hopkins, Ian Thomas, and Chris Godwin appear to be my core 3. And I do have a core 4 in there, but I'll tell you that in a second. So it's those 3 guys for me. Love Godwin, love Hopkins, love Ian Thomas, love the prices, love the upside with each of the 3 of them. Looking at Ron's lineups here, he's going with Chris Godwin and David Njoku, and Darius Slayton actually makes his way into both of his lineups. Certainly get it. He's posted a clutch game in 7 out of 11 contests this season. And the rookie's been targeted 48 times over the past 4 games, meaning that's 12 targets per game over the last 4 weeks. And Eli Manning had a nice little groove with him. So take a look at Darius Slayton. We'll go ahead and wrap it up with the bold prediction. I'm going to go ahead and give you mine. I don't have Ron's here. But my bold prediction for the week involves the 4th player of my core 4 and my favorite play on the entire slate, Seattle running back Chris Carson. I think he's going to lead the Week 15 slate in rushing yards, and I think he's going to find the end zone twice. Love Chris Carson this week in that matchup against a Carolina defense, ready for this, that has allowed 21 rushing touchdowns to opposing running backs this season. Next closest in the league are Green Bay and Jacksonville with 14. The running backs have scored a total of 24 touchdowns against the Carolina Panthers this season. So keep that in mind there. So that's my bold prediction for the week. That's all of the content here for the Consistently Cashin podcast. Hopefully next week we can have Ron back in the mix, and you get another voice in here other than mine, and I'm sure that would be welcome to many ears out there. But I do appreciate you for tuning in. As always, give me a follow on Twitter at Colby R. Conway. Follow Ron at The Real Made. Go ahead and give Bob a follow as well, Bob_Long, the pioneer of the consistency concept and the author of the Consistency Guide. So that's going to wrap it up here for the Week 15 edition of the Consistently Cashin podcast. Wish you the best of luck in Week 15, and as always, stay consistent.
It's hosting season, which means it's too many people in the house season.
Can I sit on this? Nope.
Casserole burning in the oven season.
Anyone smell that? My yams!
And Aunt Meg giving advice season.
You should enter eligible New York Lottery draw game tickets with Collect and Win. You could win a $5,000 gift card to use at the Home Depot to make hosting a little easier.
Wow, Aunt Meg, that's actually great advice.
The Home Depot is not a sponsor of this promotion. You must be 18 years or older to purchase a lottery ticket. You must be 21 or older to purchase a quick drop ticket where alcoholic beverages are served. Please play responsibly. Entered by 1-720.
Is your cell phone bill out of control? Then this is your wake-up call. The new TracFone Wireless gives you unlimited talk and text starting at $20 a month, no contract, plus unlimited carryover data with active service. Yep, the new TracFone Wireless. Now you're in control. See terms and conditions at TracFone.com.